Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. Our May 16th primary election is coming up. Democrats and Republicans will vote for judges, school directors, and county, township, borough, and city officials. The deadline to register to vote is May 1st. To check your voting status, go to votepa.gov. That's vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is May 1st. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 9th. The League is interviewing those candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and the same amount of time to answer them. Hello, I'm Judith Cranus, a member of the League of Women Voters. We have three candidates competing for a chance to be the magisterial district judge in District 23301. And in case those numbers are not meaningful, that includes Brecknock Township, Carnarvon, Robeson, and Union Townships, and Birdsboro and New Morgan. All the candidates have cross-filed, which means they are on both the ballot for the Democrat voters and the Republican voters. And the three candidates are Mike Kaufman, Melissa Seidel-Karpovich, and Nicole Rosella. And voters in each party will be able to select one to be on the ballot in the fall. So what does a magisterial district judge do? Well, they handle traffic violations, landlord-tenant matters, civil actions, provided the amount claimed is less than $12,000, and the judge presides at arraignments, sets bail, issues warrants, and performs duties of a similar nature. The term for magisterial district judge is 6 years, and the current salary is $106,245. Now, please remember, the opinions you hear from the candidate are those of the candidate, not necessarily those of League of Women Voters or Berks Community Television. And today we welcome Melissa Seidel-Karpovich. So welcome. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
And we ask you first to tell us about yourself and why you're running.
My name is Melissa Seidel-Karpovich. I was born and raised in Birdsboro Borough. I'm 34 years old. I have two young sons, and I live in Union Township with my husband and my sons. I'm running my lifetime of commitment to the community. Starting as a teenager, I worked for the Maple Springs Swimming Pool as a lifeguard, and then the Birdsboro Community Center as assistant program manager. After I graduated the Daniel Boone High School in 2006, I attended the Reading Police Academy, where I became a certified police officer at the age of 19. My first law enforcement job was with the Berks County Sheriff's Department, where I spent a little over 5 years. I worked in a few different divisions, first being the courts division, courtroom security, transporting prisoners from the holding cells to the courtrooms. I also worked in the central booking division, where I would fingerprint and photograph defendants and assist the magisterial district judges throughout the county with arraignments throughout the evening. I also worked as a canine handler. I had a canine partner, and we did a lot of things around the county. Explosives detection, we would search schools and businesses if there was any type of threat. We also did a lot of community policing. We did demonstrations at schools and events throughout the community. And the last 8 years, I've worked for the Carnarvon Township Police Department. I still serve that community today.
Thank you. Is there any other educational background or other background that you?
Just throughout my years in law enforcement, we've been sent to multiple trainings just to keep up refreshers on the laws, throughout Pennsylvania, and just extra training, search and seizure, use of force, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And to me, in a first effective district judge, what do you think is it that's in your personal qualities that's going to help you do that?
First and foremost, I believe integrity. My life, as long as I've been in law enforcement, I've had to hold myself to the highest standard of truthfulness and honesty. My commitment to the community through my public service since I was a young age, and then also my compassion and respect for the community, for people of all walks of life. And I think that's those qualities will make it's crucial to be an effective MDJ.
Tell us a little bit about the area that this district serves.
Like you said, the district is Magistrate District Judge 23301. The district covers southern Berks County. It's 6 municipalities, Robinson Township being the largest of the municipalities, and then you have the smallest of Birdsboro. Birdsboro is very densely populated, so there are a lot of voters in that area, and along with Union Township, Robinson, Brecknock, Carnarvon, and New Morgan boroughs.
Are you involved in community or volunteer work? And so tell us about that. And you can take a little longer because we're going through our questions very quickly.
Sure,
so take your time.
Okay. My community involvement comes from my work. Like I said, I've been working in public service since I was young and as a teenager. I hope to, once my children get a little bit older, volunteer with some of the sporting events maybe they get into. I'm very excited about that. I hope they, maybe get involved in some football or hockey or lacrosse, something like that, and maybe even the school events, or if they get involved in church. The schedule for policing that I have now isn't ideal for a lot of volunteer work, but I hope to be able to get into that with a little more regular of a schedule that the MDJ would have.
As a district judge, you will be dealing with issues that are civil law, things between people, and criminal law, which is where the state is involved. Could you explain to us the difference, maybe give some examples, tell us about the judge's role in handling these two very different types of law and how that works? And we want to take a good long time for this so people get a clear understanding.
Absolutely. For civil law, a lot of times this is a person against a person. For example, let's say you hire a contractor to get work done at your house. They finish the job, but you're not satisfied with the job that they did. And you may bring them to court, file a suit for X amount of dollars, anywhere ranging from $1 to $12,000. And then the plaintiff and the defendant will both appear in front of the judge, and the judge will hear both sides of the case and prove the preponderance of the evidence. And the judge will make a decision based on that, who would win the case. And whoever isn't happy with the outcome of the case would have 30 days to appeal that to the county pathonetary's office, and they could try again. And then as far as criminal goes, a little bit longer. So criminal could be anywhere from a summary offense to a non-summary offense, anywhere from a misdemeanor or a felony, retail theft, assault, murder, something like that. The way that the summary works is you get a ticket. You would have 10 days to respond to that citation. If you fail to do so, you could a warrant could be issued for your arrest, and your license could also be suspended for that. You could plead guilty to the ticket, pay a fine, and then you're done with that. Or you could plead not guilty if you feel you want to have a hearing. The officer would be there to testify on his behalf, and then you would also testify, and you can ask each other questions. And then the judge would render a verdict. If the party isn't happy with the outcome of that case, then they would also have 30 days to appeal that case. And then as far as non-summary cases, like I said, it could be anywhere from a misdemeanor 3 to a felony of the first degree, which would be your most serious. Somebody who is charged with a criminal offense would be arrested and brought before the judge for an arraignment. An arraignment isn't about somebody being guilty or innocent. It's about if they understand their rights and they understand the charges that are coming in front of them. And then bail would be set. And then they would get a date for a preliminary hearing, and then that's where the state would have to prove that there is enough evidence to move forward with the case, and then that the defendant who committed that crime, the person that was arrested is most likely the person that committed that crime. And then there's two ways that they could go about solving that is they could have a hearing, and then the judge would decide, yes, there's enough evidence to move forward, and then that those charges would be moved to the Court of Common Pleas. Or both parties could agree, yes, we agree that there's enough evidence, and then that would be moved to the Court of Common Pleas from there.
How does, as a judge, how would you make the decision as to whether or not there's sufficient evidence? What are the criteria there?
You just have to follow the law. Preponderance of the, prima facie case. Was there a crime committed, and did that person most likely commit that crime? It's pretty cut and dry as far as what you need to follow in the law. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you have the experience, but what are the most prevalent kinds of cases a district justice sees? Is it mostly the criminal? Is it mostly a particular kind of civil?
I think you see everything. I think different areas, obviously, like the city of Reading, might have more violent crime than, let's say, down in Carnarvon, there's the casino. They could have a lot of disorderly conducts, something like that down there. I think what it comes down to is, for what I've experienced, drugs. That might not be the leading cause and arrest for everything, but it's the underlying cause for a lot of crime that goes on in the area. In my district, I would cover a lot of theft, burglaries, and then also alcohol leading to fights and domestics and disorderly conducts, things like that.
And do you feel your background in law enforcement is helpful in this role, or is it? Are you so involved in that you're not seeing other things?
Absolutely not. No.
Discuss your feelings there.
Sure. I think it's very helpful. I'm familiar with most of the process, the criminal side especially. I know I have a lot to learn as far as the civil side and the landlord-tenant, because I don't see that as much when working in the field that I do. I know I can make a fair and impartial decision regardless of the officer or the department or what would be coming in front of me.
And you don't think that that's the background in law enforcement makes you tend toward that side more than?
No, absolutely not. If the evidence is there and the case can be moved forward to the Court of Common Pleas, then that's what's going to happen. I'm like a filter. The MDJ would be like a filter for the Court of Common Pleas. So if I were to let a case go through that didn't have enough, it would make me look silly. When it gets to the Court of Common Pleas, you'd be like, oh, what is she doing there? So as long as as long as there's enough evidence and they present a good case and the state has the prima facie case, then it would move forward.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that district judges do is set bail. Mm-hmm. What criteria will you use to decide whether a bail is needed, and then to also make the determination of what that bail should be? How high should it be? How do you look at that question?
There's a lot of criteria that goes into setting bail. First and foremost, bail is there to protect the victim or somebody who is involved in the case, and to make sure that the defendant shows up for their case, for their court dates in the future. The state also sets guidelines, and then you have to follow certain criteria as far as what type of crime was it? Was there a weapon involved? Was it a domestic dispute? Were family members involved? Is the community at risk? And then you also take into consideration officers will fill out a bail request form. They may deal with this person more often than not. Maybe they just made a mistake and the officer requests a low bail or something like that. And the district attorney's office also can request a certain amount of bail depending on what the case is. So all criminal cases that are non-summary, misdemeanor 3, 2, or 1, or a felony 3, 2, or 1, will get bail except for something like involuntary manslaughter or murder or homicide. Those people don't get bail. And then there's a few different types of bail. The 3 that I'm most familiar with that I've seen are ROR bail. Somebody just signs on their signature and promises that they show up for court. There's no monetary amount set. And then there's one that's unsecured bail. A monetary amount is set, let's say $5,000, but no money has to be paid. If they fail to show up for any of their court date, that money, they owe that money then. And then there's secured bail, something a more serious offense. An amount is set, say $5,000, or it could be more depending on the seriousness of the case, and a percentage of that would need to be put up before the person would be released from custody.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of talk going around that we shouldn't even be using cash bail, that it is harmful to families. People have to put up bail. And what are your thoughts on
I could
stuff
see
like
that. I do know that there's criteria also. You take the family's financial situation into consideration. Obviously, you can't be letting somebody, a violent offender, out on the street, without promising and putting up some money to get out. I do believe bail is necessary for some cases, and that's why there's a few different kinds that maybe somebody doesn't have to put cash up to get out.
Going into a totally different area, are there community problems that the district justice can help alleviate?
I believe so. I believe there are some things that they can alleviate as far as the only issues that they can alleviate are the ones that are brought before them. It's not an activist position. It's not something that you're going to be out in the community. I mean, you can go out in the community and volunteer, but the issues that you're going to be able to handle are the ones that are brought before you. You're not going to be going out and seeking your own problems or trying to find, the bad guy on certain cases. So, like for example, Birdsboro has a lot of criminal mischief on a lot of their playgrounds, a lot of vandalism, and hopefully, if they catch that person and it's brought before them, they can maybe do like community service and have that person clean up what they, the graffiti that they put out, or if that doesn't work and they continue to do it, maybe a fine or different kind of community service, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, as a member of the judiciary, which is what you're looking for, what can you do on and off the bench to ensure that all Pennsylvanians have access to the courts and to make sure they understand that they have that access?
That's very important for people to understand what type of job that the MDJ does and the access that they could have to those types of topics. As far as, I think, having as much education as I could possibly have for the position and being able to answer every question that would be brought in front of me. Obviously, nobody's perfect. You probably aren't going to have the answers for every single question you ever encounter, but hopefully you can point them in the right direction as far as who could answer that question. Maybe have something posted in your office, frequently asked questions that make it a little bit easier for somebody, or even if a lot of social media these days, so maybe you could do a Facebook page. And if there's a question somebody has, maybe you could help answer that through the social media or have some links on your Facebook or Instagram page that would help have people have access to the resources that they would need.
Mm-hmm. A lot of voters just don't think about voting for judge. They may go out and vote for something else, but just that's something they don't feel they know enough, whatever. What would you say to all our viewers today that shows how important this position is and why they need to come vote for it?
So like you said, the average person could possibly, maybe you get a speeding ticket and you would come in front of me. It's the first stop to the court system. And most likely the only stop that someone is going to be in front of me. So it's very likely that the average person could easily get a speeding ticket or a stop sign violation and then have to come in front of me. So you want to be able to trust that person that you're voting into that office and maybe look them up and know their background before just going to the polls and picking some random person. So it's nice because they would have to, the average person has to understand that I'm also an average person, and I want to be able to talk to whoever would come in front of me and people to be honest if they have any issues, and be happy to answer any questions that they have.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're ready then for your closing statement.
Okay, great. I just want to thank you again for having me here this afternoon. I am the strongest candidate for this position. My lifelong dedication to the community has prepared me for this next step in my public service career. My law enforcement background, and not only for the criminal, I'm well versed in the criminal and civil side of the law. That makes it crucial to be an effective judge. I made it a point to raise my family in this district, and I can't wait to raise my kids and have them grow up in the same community that I grew up in and loved as a kid. And it's not just about the job that I did in my uniform. It's about the connections you have to the community also. My dad was born and raised in this district. He's a police officer for the Birdsboro Police Department. My mom retired from the Daniel Boone School District after 20 years of service there. My grandfather and grandmother were both born and raised in the district. My grandfather worked for Birdsboro Steel until it closed in the 80s. I just want to thank everybody for the time, and I hope that I can count on everybody's support May 16th and vote Melissa Karpovich for District Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I think everybody appreciates your sharing your views with us. We value that. And viewers, I just want to remind you that there are 3 candidates who will be on both the Republican and on the Democrat ballot, and the other 2 are Mike Kaufman and Nicole Rosella. So you will be voting for one, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. You will be voting for one, and whoever each party selects will be on the ballot for the fall. And I especially thank you, viewers, for watching Candidates Up Front. You will find the Candidates Up Front interviews on BCTV and on its website and its YouTube page. And for more information on candidates, you can go to the League's online voters guide, vote411.org. Or you can contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com. Their phone number is 610-478-6490. And thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.